Nicolas Redner Bodington OBE. 6 June 1904 to 3 July 1974. Was, during the Second World War, a head of F section of the Special Operations Executive. He took part in 4 missions to France. Life. Pre-war. Nicolas Bodington was the son of Oliver Bodington, international lawyer, and Mary née Redner. He was born in Paris. His elder brother was Lieutenant Colonel John Redner Bodington DSOMC, a soldier who served in World War I and World War II. Nicolas Bodington studied at Cheltenham College and, for a year, at Lincoln College, Oxford, before becoming a journalist, working from 1930 onwards for the Daily Express. He married Audrey Hoffman in Cheltenham in September 1926. Prior to the war, he was Reuters' press correspondent in Paris. There he mixed with Karl Bomelberg, future head of the Gestapo in France, and Henry Dericourt, future triple agent. He also worked for MI6 for a time. In 1938 his novel Sate was published in England by Gollancz. His name is misspelled frequently. Record of his birth, military service, marriage and death all show that his first name was Nicholas. This agrees with his name as given on the covers of both of his published books. Wartime Service. In 1940 he joined F Section as its General Staff Officer 2, assisting Leslie Humphreys. Then, from December, H.R. Marriott. At the start of 1941, he recruited Virginia Hall, and at the start of summer that year Maurice Buckmaster became Section F's head. His various cover identities and code names were Nick, André Edouard, Jean-Paul, Pierrot, and Pedler. At the start of 1942 Bodington participated in a landing by boat in Brittany which picked up Pierre de Vomecourt, codename Lucas, head of the AUTOGIRO network, and Mathilde Carré, codename Victoire, the famous spy nicknamed Le Chat. 1942 mission equals. On the night of 29-30 July 1942, he was sent to France to evaluate the value to F section of collaborating with André Girard's CART network, landing from the sailing ship Sea Dog at Gulf Juan. Shortly afterwards he made contact with Girard and Henry Fraga at Cannes. He wished to meet with the head of the ARME Acute d'Armistice. André Girard put him in contact with Colonel Vautrin, formerly head of Paul Reynaud's cabinet, and asked for large quantities of arms, which Bodington promised to supply. He met with Peter Churchill, and also went to Lyon to try to undo the chaos that was then reigning there. On the night of the 31st of August, Bodington re-embarked on Sea Dog and sailed for Gibraltar, arriving on the 9th of September. Returning to England, his enthusiastic report on CART, delivered on the 12th of September, would form the foundation for the use of CARTE's file as the basis for recruitment for the Prosper Physician Network by its heads Francis Sartle, Prosper, and André Borel. Denise. On their arrival in France, Major General Colin Gubbins, head of SOE, wrote of his successful mission. As a result of his ingenuity, resourcefulness and perseverance, it has been possible to establish close relations with a very important group of French patriots. This contact would not have been successfully made without the personal visit of this officer. He was recommended for the award of the MBE. 1943 mission to France equals. In 1943 Bodington supported the candidacy of Henry Dericourt, a former civil airline pilot, who was engaged by F Section and sent to France in February that year, codenamed Gilbert, to organize aerial rendezvous for F Section. Special Operations Executive Agent Francis Suttle had been chosen to establish a new network in and around Paris. called Prosper. In September 1942, André Borel was parachuted into France to prepare the way for Suttle, who arrived on 1 October 1942. A wireless operator, Gilbert Norman, arrived in November 1942, and a second operator, Jack Agazarian, arrived the following month. Transport for the Prosper network was mainly provided by Henri Dericourt. Suttle and Jack Agazarian became increasingly concerned about the loyalty of Dericourt. In May 1943, Francis Suttle returned to London, and he passed on his fears to Nicolas Bodington and Maurice Buckmaster. However, they were unconvinced and refused to recall Dericourt to Britain. Preparing to return to France, Bodington discussed the situation with Maurice Buckmaster and left a note on record at SOE headquarters dated 23 June 1943 concerning Dericourt. "We know he is in contact with the Germans, and also how and why," suggesting that he may have been feeding the Germans with false intelligence provided by London. He was decorated as a member of the Order of the British Empire Military Division (MBE) as Captain, Temporary Major, British Army. General list in the London Gazette dated 20 July 1943. Bodington arrived in France aboard a Special Duties Lockheed Hudson aircraft of No. 161 Squadron RAF, flown by Louis Hodges DSO-DFC-AFC, which landed near Angers on the night of 22 to 23 July 1943. He was to clarify the circumstances surrounding the collapse of the Prosper network in June and the role of Henri Dericourt. Gilbert, strongly suspected of betraying several agents. Jack Agazarian, Marcel, arrested later in this mission, and the Belgian Adeline Marissal accompanied him back to France. Oddly, it was Dericourt who welcomed them when they landed in the field Achille 1 kilometer to the southeast of Seychelles. Bodington and Agazarian traveled to Paris with Dericourt, where they tried to establish if Gilbert Norman was active, tossing a coin to choose who would visit Norman's address. Agazarian lost, and when he visited was arrested by the Gestapo, having escaped the Germans. Exonerated Dericourt, though he was dismissed from SOE, and tried to convince Noor Inayat Khan to return to England. She refused. Bodington returned on the night of 16 to 17 August 1943 by Lysander, flown by Hugh Verity DSO-DFC, along with Lise and Claude de Baissac. He did not believe that Dericourt was betraying British agents, as he had been active in Paris for some time himself and had not been arrested. For the following 6 months he lectured and wrote reports on the intricacies of the French political situation for the forces preparing for D-Day. 1944 mission equals. On the 11th of February 1944 in London, he interrogated Henri Dericourt, who had returned from France, to ascertain his loyalties. In the spring of 1944, Bodington was due to return to France on an SOE mission to the southwest of France as organizer of a resistance network, but mission was cancelled at the last moment, possibly due to concerns over an informant in France, later identified as Bousquet. Following the arrest of Charles Skepper, Eliane Pluman and Arthur Steele, SOE agent, SFHQ sent him back to France under the code name John. Knowing that the Gestapo had a photograph of him and a price on his head, Bodington parachuted on the night of 10 July 1944 into the dangerous Chalon-sur-Marne district to reactivate the Professor network in its new identity as the Peddler network, and to assist the French resistance. Accompanied by a small Special Air Service team of 4 men, he provided useful information for RAF bombing objectives and, from 24 August, was attached to Operation Jedburgh with the Arnold team. It was a mission in which SOE and similar units operated in France with the SAS behind German lines carrying out acts of sabotage. In total, 93 Jedburgh teams operated in 54 French metropolitan départements between June and December 1944. They were known by code names which usually were first names, such as Hugh, with some names of medicines, such as Novocaine, and a few random names thrown in to confuse German intelligence. Bodington was recommended for a Gallantry Award, the Military Cross, for his service in France. The recommendation recorded his previous missions to France and his return, despite knowing that the Gestapo had his photograph, and adds that, in the short time at his disposal, Bodington arranged several receptions of arms and stores, parachuted by the Royal Air Force, to the French resistance in the Marne department, and organized guerrilla warfare against enemy garrisons and convoys passing through the area. In the Street, Dizier, and Chaumont regions, he took part in several clashes with the enemy and showed great courage in dealing with German formations by the use of the bazooka and the Piat. After his positions had been overrun by the American advance, he passed through enemy lines several times to obtain valuable intelligence. He was recommended for a military cross for gallantry in action in Normandy, but eventually received an OBE instead. 1945. Bodington worked for both Special Operations Executive and also the Secret Intelligence Service, MI6, possibly simultaneously, and as the result of internal rivalries appears to have been a victim of an internal smear campaign suggesting that he may have had wartime contact with the German Sicherheitsdienst, which was not always in the best interest of his country. The National Archives in London hold a file KV2 830 documenting an investigation carried out into these claims from February to July 1945, which it classifies as Nicolas Redner Bodington, British. Bodington was regarded as a distinguished member of SOE during the Second World War. However, this file is mainly concerned with the suggestion that he may have been in touch with German intelligence and have betrayed SOE agents to them. The allegations were not substantiated. Twice decorated for bravery, Captain Bodington resigned his commission on the 7th of July 1945 and was granted permission to retain the rank of Major. After the war, in June 1948, he was a witness at the trial of Henri Dericourt, a French agent of SOE who was known to have had contact with the German Sicherheitsdienst and Gestapo, and is often regarded as having been a double or triple agent. Bodington's testimony was decisive in bringing about Dericourt's acquittal and suggests that Dericourt may have fed false intelligence to the Germans. In 1961, his second book was published by André Deutsch, The Awakening Sahara. Awards. UK. Member of the Order of the British Empire Military Division. MBE. Awarded as Captain. Temporary Major. British Army. General List in the London Gazette dated 20 July 1943. UK. Officer of the Order of the British Empire Military Division. OBE. Awarded as a Major. British Army. General List in the London Gazette dated 21 January 1947. France. Médaille de la Résistance. Recommended for the Military Cross for service with SAS Operation Jedburgh teams in northern France. In July 1944. Sources and external links. Patrick Howarth. 1980. Undercover. The Men and Women of the SOE. Routledge. ISBN 0710005733. Photographs of Nicolas Bodington on the Special Forces Roll of Honor. Michael Richard Daniel Foote. SOE in France. An account of the work of the British Special Operations Executive in France. 1940 to 1944. London. Her Majesty's Stationery Office. 1966. 1968. Whitehall History Publishing. In association with Frank Cass. 2004. Official History of SOE in Europe. André Gillois. L'Histoire secrète des Français à Londres. Le Cercle du Nouveau Livre. Librairie Jules Taillandier. 1973. Verity. Hugh. 2013. We Landed by Moonlight. Cressy Publishing. ISBN 9780947554750. M. R. D. Foot. 2006. SOE in France. Routledge. ISBN 0415408008. Nicolas Bodington. 1938. Solo. Gollynch. Assen B000WGZ5YI. Nicolas Bodington. 1961. The Awakening Sahara. André Deutsch. Assen B000CL147. Paul Gaujak. 1999. Special Forces in the Invasion of France. Histoire and Collections. ISBN 2-908-182-947.